and welcome to the Calhoun Communications segment on Rock Your Block. I'm your host, Dion Calhoun. We have a very special guest in the studio to talk to us about a fun way to get fit. Sharmika Sokanista Farkar is the creator of Soka Tribe DC, which is a mix of high-energy cardio and dance, bringing the electric carnival vibe to a workout. We also have a very special treat today. Sharmika is going to give us a taste of what Soka Tribe looks like, so stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sharmika to our Rock Your Block set. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Really excited.
It's wonderful being here. Sharmika, tell me, what is Soka Tribe?
So Soka Tribe is, first off, a community. I'm going to dive back into how it started. So I'm a native Brooklyner. And I always make the joke that I didn't realize how Trini, so both of my parents are from Trinidad, I was until I got to DC, because I just grew up so immersed in my culture. So 2 years ago, when I moved to DC, just looked around, I'm like, well, I guess we're not in Kansas anymore, for lack of a better word, and I started Soka Tribe. So it's pretty much a way for me to reconnect with my Caribbean culture and stay fit. So what was great about it, it was like my fix of Carnival on a bi-weekly basis. So I can't take everybody to Carnival with me, but I can bring Carnival to you. And it just started to kind of grow.
So you said something very important.
Okay.
Stay fit. So what about people that dread working out?
And
how would you get them pumped up about coming to a class?
Well, let's start. People who dread working out. And it's interesting because I would say, well, this was genetics. But you hit a certain age and it's like, you gotta keep this going. Soka Tribe doesn't feel like a workout. You are just so involved with the music. Like, it hits you in your soul. I don't know if it's the percussion, it's the strings, what it is, but you feel it, and next thing you know, the class is done. And it's like, but wait a minute, I'm dripping wet. And what happened? Oh, I worked out, which you tend to find out the next day because you use your entire body, so you're feeling things that you haven't felt in a long time. So what I'd say to people who are kind of, I guess, timid about it was just come for some good music. Come to have a good time. Don't think about working out. Just, you're gonna meet some cool people, you're gonna have a good time, and then you wake up like, oh, I worked out too.
So what are people saying when they leave out? What are people saying to you when they come?
My favorite is, actually after a class a couple weeks ago, somebody posted a picture, and it was like, I think I found my tribe. And that hits me here, because that's why it started. It was about building community. And then the fact that people are like, I can't wait to come back. And there's nothing better than at the end of class when someone's like, oh, I want to get your 5 class pass, because it's like, I'm all the way in. People really just say, I want to go to Carnival now, right? That's another thing. It's this exposure of Carnival. We actually took a group trip to Miami, and one of the folks who came had not from Caribbean heritage, had never been to Carnival, had always been on a bucket list, and she's like, well, I'm just gonna go by myself. And then by the end, she just had such a great time. She actually wrote about it for one of our newsletters. So it's this connectivity and freedom and expression and just new education and knowledge for people about a culture they might not have otherwise found. And that to me is it.
Right. So for our viewers that are watching,
okay,
you have a unique background. You jazz, ballet, hip hop, salsa. Do you incorporate those different styles of dancing in Soka Tribe?
Everything is in there. I also have done West African and modern. And actually most of my formal training is in modern. So what I would find with the movements is, for example, we do a Horton base. Horton's a type of modern technique. We do that type of stretching. It has a lot to do with the energy flow through your fingertips. So I just like to get the energy really high very early. And some of the moves, you'll also see a lot of West African moves. There's a couple songs. We throw a little salsa in there. We've done some samba. I have a couple class folks who actually are almost professional salsa, samba folks, so that let them get a go at it. I really just try to keep it, mixing it up, but with this real feel we break it down and then we build up, and over weeks and times of people coming back, you just jump in and get in where you fit in.
Right. Let's go back to the Carnival. You mentioned that.
Yes, ma'am.
Do folks that attend classes, do you actually take them with you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Sure. So Carnival is life-changing, and yes, I'm biased because I'm Trini, and I actually grew up in a mass camp. So my father used to put together one of those organizations that actually build the costumes. So just having that, I want to say, like, background, I try to bring that to class. And then it's like, well, like I said, I can't bring everybody, but we did do a trip to Miami Broward Carnival in 2016, so it was actually Columbus Day weekend, and we're gonna do another one next year. And we rented a house, and Carnival isn't just about the road. So the Carnival experience, I want to say it's an experience because there's this entire build-up. It's like Carnival season, and there's like a fetting culture, and it's like a definite, I would say, concrete subculture. Like, people know which there are people that call them carnival chasers. So from carnival to carnival. And so what I do in Soka Tribe is we just said, we're gonna pick one, we're gonna sign up, we're gonna go. We organized, people came, we all stayed in a house together, we booked the parties, we went to the party. We took our Soka Tribe flag and we were waving it at the flag, and the DJ was like, hey, Soka Tribe. So it was a very, I wouldn't say a way to get really immersed in that entire culture. Because then when we came back to class and we're hearing the songs that we heard on the road, it was like flashbacks, instant nostalgia, so.
Now, we have people that come to Soka Tribe for bonding experience, for sisterhood, basically to increase stamina. What are some other benefits, though?
Sure. So Soka Tribe, from I would say, we'll get a little technical. It's a high intensity interval training type of workout, which pretty much means lots of high intensity things followed by low intervals as well. And that actually, once you stop, your body metabolism is actually still going, and therefore, like, you're burning fat after the class. So you'll actually burn a little bit more than if you were doing something traditional and steady, for example, running. Class, I don't want to go on like how many calories you burn because that's different based on your body type and things of that sort, but we've tracked it, and it does vary because we change choreography, so I'm going to put that caveat out there as well. About 6,000 steps per class, so if someone wants to get a gauge on it. I definitely think in terms of flexibility, we do a lot of, like I said, we start with this Horton stretch, but a lot of the moves after we've warmed up, you're getting real low, you're doing wine in our demonstration later when we have, we're actually gonna build a performing group, so you'll see some of that stretching going to work. So yeah, so flexibility, strength training, endurance, yeah, and we also, I want to say, brotherhood as well, because we do have mostly women, but men are welcome to the tribe as well.
So for our viewers at home also, let's just say I'm a little afraid to come to Soka Tribe because it may be too high intense, right?
Okay.
So what type of working out would you do with somebody that doesn't necessarily want to just pump it up like this?
So I'm going to ask for a little clarity on the question. Is it the moves are too intense?
The moves being too intense.
Got it. So I start every class with, do all that you can do, not what you want to do, because what you want to do sometimes is just chill, but all that you can do. So we're definitely open to modifications. I always say this is not a performing class. Carnival is about freedom, so all we ask is that you keep moving and stay engaged. We do levels of modification, so for some of the, I want to say, really strenuous activities, I'll actually break down and show the class modifications, but I ask about injuries and challenges at the beginning of class so that I can help guide throughout.
So how can our viewers find out about our class?
Sure. So we have our website, sokatribe.com, and I would say our strongest presence is also on Instagram at Sokanista, so that'll be following me. So I do lots of, in terms of where we're going to be and what's happening and behind the scenes, you'll find that on Instagram. We also have a Facebook group. In terms of location, our home base is here in the DMV area in DC and off-road, so we'll be there on Saturdays and Thursdays. However, for the viewers all over the country, Soka Tribe is on tour. So there will be Philly in January. We do New York several times a year, Chicago a couple times, Atlanta, LA, Oakland. We are going to add New Orleans this year. And for our international folks, because we just don't know, Trinidad and Barbados. So we're just going to go as far as
wonderful,
spreading it as much as we can.
Wonderful. So what other fun activities does Soka Tribe do?
Well, so we talked about the carnivals. And just staying with our cultural theme, for example, there are Soka artists coming to the DMV area this weekend. So organize a group outing, and so we'll be going to the concert together. It's always more fun if we all get some. So lots of jumping and waving, and pretty much doing what we do in class, but with the bigger masses of other folks who are interested in the culture. So it's just the energy level I'm like so excited about. And we actually had our first happy hour event, so we're trying to do more events outside of the class to connect with folks and help spread the word.
What is next for Soka Tribe?
Well, in terms of what is next, so we've added some new stops to our tour. So we did 5 cities this year. We're going to go for 8 next year and try to go international, as well as Soka Tribe, the performing group, which is something we're going to show you guys a little bit in our demonstration. So myself and my partner, we're going to do the performing side, and then we'll show something that's a little more general about what class is like. So really excited about that.
And are you actually doing other training, like for example, salsa, hip hop? Are you doing house visits or visits in the community?
So we are looking to actually work with, I'm not going to put too much out there, we're looking to work with a bigger organization so that we can actually get more access to public, get more access to people in the general public that might not be able to pay for classes, so it might be price prohibitive. So working on that, so that will really be exciting. And in terms of training, as Soka Tribe instructors, we've actually been going around and taking different types of classes so we can keep the mix fresh, learning new techniques and things of that sort. So, yeah.
So, this show is also going to focus on women empowerment.
Yep.
And with you being an entrepreneur and being a millennial, what tips would you have for someone that doesn't necessarily know the steps to get out there? Mm-hmm. What type of advice would you have for a young person that wants to start their own business?
Figure out what you really want to do, right? Find a space for it and try. Like, there is nothing more valuable than saying you tried. I mean, I actually started Soka Tribe as a side thing. I actually have a consulting business. That was going to be my primary business. I'm truly passionate about people development, so this is all up my alley. And he said, you know, I love dance. I miss my culture. I miss my people. I'm going to teach a dance class. And then people showed up. And then they came back. And then told their friends. And then we got press coverage. And it's like, you know what? You go with it. But that wouldn't have happened if I didn't go with something that I loved and I didn't just do it. Because having a very concrete plan, that's not the answer. I mean, I actually teach at a university, and my students are like, well, Professor, we really want to know how. And I said, we spent this entire semester thinking about what you need to make that business successful. All you got to do is say, I'm going to start. And you don't have to start big. You test it, and then you talk to your customers. Does this work for you? What should I change? You've got to be open and flexible, but stay focused on your vision. Why did you start this? Like, I go back to this community, because that's why I started Soka Tribe. I miss my community. I wanted to connect. So if you're true to what you enjoy doing, you try it, you listen, and then on the back end, you got to make sure your numbers are right, because most small businesses fail because you haven't watched your numbers, right? So you got to keep that in the forefront.
Thank you so much. Stay tuned. We're going to have a demonstration. Welcome back. You are watching the Calhoun Communications segment on Rock Your Block with our special guest, Shamika Sokanista Farquhar, founder of Soka Tribe. Before the break, we talked about how you started out in the business. And so I want to come back to that for the viewers at home. Let's give us a little bit more of your background as a businesswoman.
Okay, great. I like to start all the way from, I'm gonna go a little further back. Born and bred in Brooklyn, New York. Both of my parents are immigrated here from Trinidad. And I think I mentioned that just because the work ethic that was instilled in me from a child just stuck. They were all about get your education, work really hard. Like that's the one thing whoever they are, can't take away from you. So really early, it was like I was a bookworm. We're going here. Public school educated. Up until Georgetown. So I went to Georgetown for undergrad, and I was like, I want to go see the world. International business and marketing major. So I get on this business track. Straight out of college, I started interning with Entertainment Weekly magazine, and I was in the marketing department. So back to, I really was about connecting with the consumer, figuring that stuff out. And I mean, I want to say when I went back to my reunion, I was like, oh, you've got the sexy job out of college. And I enjoyed it, but something was missing. Because it's a weekly magazine, the pace was really, really quick. And at the end of the day, I'm like, this magazine's gonna come out, but we're not curing anything, the intensity, I wanna give back more. I'd also always been a dancer. And so I'm like, I wanna start, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
You ready? Because I wasn't ready. When I wrote this essay, it was, I want to start a venture philanthropy for dance companies. And I was just like, that's a whole mouthful. So let's break that down for you. Venture philanthropy is in the impact investment sector, right? So you hear less about venture philanthropy and more about impact investing. So this idea is a double bottom line. It's about profits and about social good. So pack up my bags and I go to University of Chicago Business School, Chicago booth. Woo woo. Amazing experience. And then I realized this venture philanthropy model isn't completely figured out. So I also started as a young MBA. So I go into school, I'm like, they haven't figured it out. I don't know that I have enough knowledge. So let me learn a little bit more structure. And that's also something that I would say to people who are young and trying to start things. Work with people who know more than you. Let your ideas drive you, like give it that energy, but always have that open ear to be around people who've done the structure, because now that I started my own business, all of my time in consulting, so I worked in consulting in management consulting immediately after my business school degree, as well as all that I learned at Entertainment Weekly in that marketing department. We got a brand. We know how to market a brand because I've done that. I was able to take that and transfer it into my own business. Like just getting that responsibility and getting that exposure is really important. I actually, from management consulting, I went to work in education, and then I started my own thing. I said, I want to be, back to this people development, I want to help organizations help their people be better. And I also want to help individuals make themselves be better. Like all about like, how can I enable others to bring themselves up? Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, so here I am. And I'm working on the consulting business on one side, and Soka Tribe is my small thing on the side, and now honestly it's just the juggling. So
I'm gonna share a wonderful story with you.
Please do.
Yesterday I was speaking with some young ladies in the hair salon.
Okay.
And
your hair looks great, by the way.
Thank you. Very young. They want to actually have their own businesses. Okay. You will be surprised. Folks don't have mentors. Yep. Mentorship is so important. You are not given with the tools to know everything. Yep. Just like you said, you have to learn. You just have to start from somewhere. And it's always really good to actually have somebody that's going to guide and direct you because you don't have the answers. Yep. So are you also mentoring other young women that want to start their own businesses? So I do a lot of formal and informal mentoring. In terms of young ladies who want to start their own businesses, I've actually had a lot of peers who are now starting that have reached out via the business, via my MBA network, which I think is interesting just in terms of when do you know when to start. I think what's happened now, and I'm actually reaching back to my alumni connections to try to meet these young ladies who are trying to start their own business, to give them the, just start. Let's think through what the process looks like and let's go. And I'm teaching an entrepreneurship class and I'm doing the, let's talk about it, come on by. Like, I'm okay with sharing that information. It hasn't been a focus in terms of me actively soliciting, but my door is always open. I'm like, here's the calendar, book a time, let's talk about it. What I do think
I've been actually more cognizant about is the young ladies who come to me with similar career paths. So coaching them through their interview processes, specifically in consulting, and then once they get there, providing a support. Because that process, as well as, I would say, as a young Black woman, in general corporate environments, they are often not, they don't cater to our needs, they don't cater to the mentorship and support. And so being a sounding board for, it's okay to ask these questions, helping them think through problems strategically, helping them, I would say, protect themselves for potential corporate harms, as well as showing them ways that they can put structures in place so that they're empowered in that situation. Because your mentors can't help you all the time. And it's not just about mentors, it's about mentors, advocates, and sponsors. And there's a distinction. So it's like how getting them, I want to say, to think differently, like it's a really interesting space to be in, but I mean, the door's open.
And it's also about drive too.
Yes.
And just like going back to what you said about ethics,
Yep.
about what your parents taught you, and about how that provided you with structure.
Yep.
Right? So mentorship is extremely, extremely important.
Definitely, definitely.
Tell us a little bit more about your travel, just on the Carnival side.
Okay, sure. So travel on the Carnival side. This year, starting at the top, we started our carnivals in Trinidad. We also made it out to Los Angeles. So I think I want to say it's their third or fourth year. So after Los Angeles, then we went to Barbados for crop over. After crop over, we then went to New York for their Labor Day parade. And then finished off with Miami. And then we'll be back on the road for carnivals again next year. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. There's an entire another list that we just, I mean, when we were in Barbados for crop over, Caravana was happening in Toronto the same weekend. When we were in New York, Notting Hill in London was the week before. It's just, there's so many. Gotta catch them all.
Shamika, you talked a lot about vision. You knew what your purpose was. You knew where you wanted to go, and you knew the steps that it took to get there. But for a young lady who does not necessarily know how to get to that place, like what other forms of advice would you provide that young lady?
Share your vision. Like, it's interesting when you say you knew your purpose. I'm like, girl, if I could tell you the stories. I didn't wake up here. But what I will say is I've always been a more vocal person. And because of that, I'm now also cognizant of those who aren't as vocal, and I encourage them to, if you're not a person who wants to talk to everybody, write it down, right? Like, don't make it a hope, don't make it a dream. When you write down your vision, it becomes a goal. I feel like when I was coming up, vision boards weren't a thing. But between Oprah and Yana, like everybody's saying, write a vision board. It truly works. And it's not just about that actual process of I've thought through what my vision looks like, I've now found the images that represent that. Then you can share that. And the power in sharing becomes accountability. So we talked a little bit about mentorship. So you're thinking about that's from above. I like to think that, and I'm forgetting the book now, but you want to have different groups of people around you. There are people who are where you want to be. There are people who you are, we talked about my peers, and the people that you want to bring along. Like at Soka Tribe, we don't have staff, we got some interns, and it's like, where are you trying to go? Where do you see yourself, right? And in them articulating to me their vision, they've now shared with me, and I can put some input onto, hey, maybe have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? With my peers, it's the same thing. It's a sounding board. And between the, I like to call it the, it's the exponential effects of the diversity of thought. So you and I exchange ideas. I now have your 2 cents to add to my 2 cents. We're gonna get to 5 cents because there's a little extra in there. And on top of that, you now know what I said. So let's say in a week, I'm like, you know, Dion, you're like, but Shamika, this is what the plan was. And now you can encourage me. And there's just something about that reinvigoration and like community.
Right. Being around women that are going to support you, uplift you. And you know what? It's never too late to have a mentor.
Never.
I mean, I can still pick up the phone and call my mentors to this day.
Yep, and they don't look like anything. That's what I will say. Be open. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't have to be someone who's older than you. I have people who are younger than me. When I say, I'm like, now if I was on your level when I was 25, and so you just really got to be open to what people can contribute, and then be open to contributing to people as well.
I'll say this too. I think that in terms of ambition for a woman, it's not a bad thing.
No. At all.
Ambition is good. Because ambition takes you to where you want to go. You have to have a plan. This is where I am. This is where I aim to be.
Yep.
And so for you, you have been very ambitious. You've gone from the corporate world to now starting your own business. And what would you say to a woman about ambition? Don't be afraid of the ambition. Let the ambition drive you to what your next step is.
Yep. And one foot in front of the other. You don't have to have all the answers now, but like drive and know that you're moving forward and trust in that.
Shamika, we want to thank you for coming. We really enjoyed you on the show, and I hope that our viewers really were educated and entertained. And you got to come on back on the show.
Yes, ma'am.
We would love to have you.
Will do.
Thank you. I want to thank our viewers who are tracking us in 40 states across America. We're so grateful, and we will continue to work hard to bring you great, empowering shows to educate, entertain, and to inform you. Tune in next week to another great segment on Rock Your Block. Bye, folks.